Welcome to this episode of Impact the World called The Challenge of Pricing Yourself and Your Work. It's interesting because we recorded this episode a few months ago, and given the current state of the world and how many people are looking at different ways to do their work, whether that's more online or whether that's bringing in self-employment skills or services that you can offer, this feels like a good time to release this episode. The challenge of pricing yourself and your work, especially when you move from being employed and paid a wage. I was paid wages from the age of, I think 12 was my first job, is very tricky and very complex. And holding your value, owning your value of what you do, and also figuring out what's the right value for others is a complex area. So I know for me that it was quite a journey, and going from being a donation-based intuitive reader for people to what I do today has taken quite some time, learnings, growth, and has been a really interesting ride. So I support you with figuring out that journey for yourself and what that looks like and what's authentic and true for you. And I hope that this video can do the same. Welcome to Impact the World, the show for and about creatives, changemakers, and entrepreneurs. This is an insight episode where I share a few quick tips to help you take your work and mission to the next level. Pricing yourself and your work is often a big hurdle to overcome, especially when you begin selling a service, a product, or an offering that you yourself have created, put together, worked with a team on. And it's funny because we as consumers don't have a problem buying other people's stuff. I remember for me, when I first started working in self-growth and metaphysical field, it was very triggering for me to charge for my one-on-one readings and sessions with people at the beginning. And what struck me was I was very willing to pay money to go and have a session with someone else. I was very willing to pay money to go to someone else's workshop, and I didn't question anything other than, could I afford it? And was it valuable to me? And I think these are some key things to consider when you are pricing yourself and your work in the world. So let's take a quick look at a few things that you can consider as you are on the journey to doing that. One of the first things that you have to overcome when you're pricing yourself, your work, your time, your products is other people may not agree with the price that you have put on yourself or your product, and that's okay. I know when I am scrolling through a website that I'm buying something from, I don't get annoyed at the pricing of things that I don't agree with or don't want. I just move on to the next thing and I choose something else. But we take it very personally when we're thinking about pricing ourselves or our offering, and especially at the beginning. Try and remember that other people won't be looking at it in quite the same way you will. You will either appear of value to them and within their price range, or what you're offering won't be of value or of interest to them, or the pricing won't quite be right, and they'll just move on. So know your own value, know the value of what you're offering in the world, but try not to take it personally if somebody else disagrees with that value. I remember when I was younger, talking to a friend and saying to her that I'd just been to see this great movie at the cinema, the movie theatre in the UK, and her sitting there on like her third large glass of Chardonnay telling me she couldn't afford the cinema. And I remember thinking, well, the cinema's like one glass of Chardonnay. The point is that to her, large glasses of Chardonnay was where she was putting her value. That meant something to her. She didn't really value the cinema. So try and remember that when you're putting your work, your service, you're offering out into the world, it's not going to be for everybody. And that often doesn't come down to price. It comes down to whether or not this person really values what it is that you are offering. The next thing to consider is if you are offering a paid service to somebody, can they try before they buy? So a classic example for this would be there's something that you offer in a one-on-one session, a one-on-one service. Have you got free video content or free audio content or free writings out there so that I can already ascertain if A, you're right for me, B, you're giving me value? Are there ways I can sample or experience you before I commit and invest with my money. And when we invest with our money, it's an agreement, it's a yes. So are there ways that I can test whether or not you are the right yes for me before I have to invest my money? Another question to ask yourself with your pricing is, where is your level of skill right now with your service, your product, your offering? Are you a beginner or are you a master? Is this something you have done for many thousands of hours, or is this something you're just learning? And pricing yourself appropriately is really important. When I first started doing my one-on-one sessions, I had a donation basis. And that allowed two things. It allowed people to not feel great risk in hiring me at the beginning, but it also allowed me to try out this new skill I was offering to the public that was a skill I had in my personal life, but I hadn't yet developed in public. And so that apprenticeship was appropriately matched to the fact that I wasn't setting a price. I was allowing people to pay me what they wanted for those first 100 or so readings. So this kept it safe for everybody. But to always consider, are you an apprentice or a master at what you're offering? Or are you somewhere in between and getting the value aligned with that? You may want to be charging hundreds of dollars an hour for your time, but you might not be there yet. So start where you're at, honor where you're at in your pricing, and it will feel aligned to other people. We all know how off it feels when somebody tries to sell us something for a very high price that doesn't feel completely in integrity with either their experience or our sense of what it is we will receive. So if in doubt, work within a price that's going to feel comfortable for everybody involved, you included. This leads me to my next point, which is don't make your customers hostage to your financial needs. This is a classic, and I've seen it at work a lot. You know, you might be saying, well, I need $5,000 a month to survive, so I'm going to set this service at this, this, and this. That's you thinking about what you need and want and not necessarily checking that it's in alignment with your ability to provide that service to your customers, but also how the rest of the marketplace looks. It's important to know your position in the marketplace. How many other people are offering what you're offering? And are they offering it at a similar price? This leads me to my next point, which is you need to differentiate yourself and communicate your value in a crowded marketplace. An example for this would be, let's say you're a masseur or a body worker, and everybody in your area is also doing massage or body work for, let's say, $100 to $120 for an hour. So you just decide that you have to fit somewhere in that bracket. Now, if you suddenly decide that you're $135 an hour because you also do aromatherapy, you do some Reiki, but you just call yourself a masseur and a body worker, how is anyone out there in the world going to know exactly what it is that makes you unique? This is especially important when you're using standard generic terms like masseur, body worker. What we, the customer, will tend to think is, well, that massage is more than that massage, and I don't see any discernible reason or difference as to why. So this is where you want to make sure that you really, through your language, communicate what your service is. So you may go the extra mile and say body work with Reiki and aromatherapy, and then have a broader description about what it is that you do that's uniquely you. Because none of us are the same. And often where we fall down in knowing and communicating our value to others is we shy away from it. We say, oh, I'm a masseur. So then you just fall into the realm of masseurs, and people immediately go, oh yeah, I remember what a masseur was like, and they'll go back to their last memory. Explain what it is you do when you speak to people about it. Through your marketing, through the way that you communicate. How do you communicate your value to others? And another way to do that is through my next point, testimonials. Testimonials from others who have experienced your work, whether that's your product, your one-on-one services, your workshop experiences, whatever it is you're offering to the world, they both help sell you and educate you. They sell you because the words of others will be very helpful to new customers. And I'm a credit to this too. Like, I read reviews. When I'm buying new things online or new experiences, I like to read a cross-section of reviews because I can feel from what the reviews are saying about the product whether or not it's going to be in alignment with me. But equally, and this is a good hidden secret that I didn't really understand, Your testimonials will educate you as to your specific value. Now, in the early days of my sessions, it was reading what people said to me about working with me. I started to see some consistencies. I started to see that they were saying a lot of similar things about what it was they were receiving from me that they said was different or was particularly good or was particularly new. So then I was able to, through that feedback, incorporate it in the way I described my work. So if they were saying, Lee makes me feel more grounded, calm, and he enhances my intuition, and I heard that a multiple number of times, I then put that into my description of my work. I would say, people who have worked with me report feeling more grounded, feeling calm, and having their intuition enhanced. So your testimonials from your customers not only help spread the word about you to others, but help educate you as to what your product or service is doing for a group and a mass of people. And that really helps you know your value and communicate your value to others. Another thing to think about when pricing yourself and your work is how can you give people an exceptional value experience? So how can you go the extra mile in what you give your customer, the person who has come to you for this experience or this service? Because that will give them the trust of the integrity of your service of them, and they will come back time and time again. But equally, if you do some kind of cash grab thing because you've decided you need to make a certain amount of money, and so you offer them this killer deal that actually is really just going to kill them because they'll give you the money and they'll feel disgruntled, they're never going to come back to you. So pricing goes hand in hand with service and value. Are you honoring your commitment to give somebody an experience that is of service to what they need and of value to their life? So this is where your integrity around not just your pricing, but the way you show up and the way you give in exchange for the dollars that you have received or the money that you have received in exchange for your work. It's really key to honor that, to nurture that, and to recognize the energy exchange has to go both ways. And the final point around pricing yourself and your work that I will leave you with, and this one won't apply to everybody, but for those of you who have a big demand around what you do, or perhaps you're doing one-on-one sessions, one of the questions I hear a lot is, how do I know it's time to increase my prices? Swiftly followed by, I'm terrified to increase my prices because people are worried they will lose work. Well, price increases happen all the time in the world. You know, every year, a lot of things will just slightly increase. But what I always say to people who are in high demand, particularly around one-on-one session work, if you have a very big waiting list, if people are waiting for you for 2, 3, 4 months, and you feel a need to earn more money for what you're doing, either because you want to invest money in perhaps more free products in your video, or you want to expand what you're doing to give better service or quality to people, or perhaps you just want to work less, that's the time that you can increase your prices because you have enough demand around you to show you that the marketplace of your work can handle an increase. And the other thing to think about is, how can you handle the increase? Your stomach might be feeling a little bit nervous about putting your prices up. If you're feeling terrified about putting your prices up, if it's really processing you to put your prices up, I would say that's not the time. But if you're just feeling a little nervous, a little hesitant, but you've been avoiding doing it for a while, do it and do a little bump, do a safe bump, do a bump that feels right to you, because as you increase the value around your work accordingly, so let's say you feel you're worth $5 more an hour or $10 more an hour than you're getting right now, you have to listen to that calling because money is energy. So if you don't honor that calling to increase your work, you might resent your work, you might not give as much. So trust that as you increase your work, sure, you will bring more energy to you through that money, but you'll also perhaps have to let a client or two go. Some people might drop off the radar as you change your value, and that's okay too, but often that's what's underneath our fear. Our loyalty and our connections to the people that we've served so far, if we make a change. If you're really feeling a call to increase your rates for anything that you do, and it's been at you for a while, Trust yourself and make that increase, and trust there will be some growth there. And provided you're not doing anything that's high risk to your business or hiking the prices suddenly overnight so that everybody leaves, you'll be okay. I hope some of this has helped, and good luck with your journey around pricing yourself and your work. You have been listening to Impact the World. For more of my work, please visit leeharrisenergy.com. If you are an entrepreneur, creative, healer, or changemaker who wants to take your work to the next level in the world, consider joining my Own Your Value online course. Online video and audio plus live calls with me, beginning May 26th, and registration closes on June 7th. Visit leeharrisenergy.com or use the links below this video or audio.